Okay, I think we've got a minute or so before people join us. Thanks. Yeah, internal. Hi, Travis. I recognize you from other webinars. Welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm traveling right now, but I saw that I perfectly lined up in between two other meetings that I had. So we're going
Excellent.
to sit in and learn about some more stuff at the school.
Yeah. We're going to wait just a few more minutes to get everyone started. Let me see if I can figure out how to share the screen. They're learning the technology here. There we go. Oops. Oh.
Good job.
Sorry, it doesn't work. Travis, where are you calling from?
I'm actually currently in Montana for business for a couple days. So Army
Nice.
sent me up here to take care of some stuff for a couple days. Flew in yesterday, flying out on Tuesday. So I'm in Missoula, going to visit the University of Montana in about 45 minutes to talk to some cadets about what it means to be in the Army and be an officer. And I brought one of the guys that works with me, a little younger in rank and experience than I am, to talk to them about, hey, what are my first couple years like in the Army that he knows more about because I've just, progressed past that now.
Great. Excellent.
Looks like we have some more joined us.
Yeah, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know people are still joining. My name is Kate Weaver. I'm Associate Dean of Students here at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. And it's really my great honor today to invite my colleagues from the Robert Strauss Center for International Security and Law and the Clements Center for National Security. I've had the privilege of working with these guys for 10 years or so. And I say this is definitely the place to come if you're studying national and international security. These are really vibrant centers, offer amazing opportunities for students, and create a learning environment that's absolutely unparalleled. So I'm going to go off the screen here and monitor the chat box, but I want to introduce Will Inboden, from the Executive Director of the Clements Center, Bobby Chesney, Director of the Straus Center, and Steve Slick, who's Director of our Intelligence Studies Project. I'm going to let them take it from here.
Okay. Thanks, Kate. So this is Bobby. I'll go first. And I think what we decided we would do is we'd each introduce ourselves and say a few of the key things to understand about each of our separate enterprises. So I'm Bobby Chesney. I'm the James Baker Chair for, I believe the full title is World Order and Law or something grandiose like that. I am actually a faculty member at the law school where I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, but at the LBJ School, I'm the director of the Robert Strauss Center for International Security and Law. Strauss Center is basically an interdisciplinary research center that spans pretty broadly across a wide array of foreign affairs and security issues. So in a minute, I'll say something about each of our current list of 10 or 12 programs so you get a sense of the breadth of topics we cover. But first, I'll say something that's true about all the programs, at least aspirationally, and maybe true about academic centers in general. There are really three different things an academic center can do well at most places. First, spurring innovation in the classroom and hopefully career opportunities related to that. So I think this will be true for all of us. Our programs do tend to manifest sometimes in the form of classes that wouldn't otherwise exist, often creative classes that get you out into the field, that get you doing policy relevant work to an extent in an area that otherwise might not be represented in the curriculum, and often bridging together the different schools. So you see people from other parts of the graduate community at this campus. And of course, one of the things that makes the LBJ School special is it's situated here at a Tier 1 research university. It's also one of the great state flagship public schools. One consequence of that is there are all these other fantastic graduate programs, many of which will be of interest to you depending on what it is you want to do. So curriculum innovation and special classes. Policy relevant research, of course, that's the name of the game at the LBJ School, and the centers definitely promote that. So in all of our research areas, we're looking to generate insights that are actually meaningful now for policymakers. Third, bringing the world to Austin and bringing Austin to the world. The bring the world to the Austin part is public events, high impact speakers, world leaders, national leaders, the flow of speakers who are here in this building every single week. Frankly, it's more than you'd be able to attend. In almost any given week, there's going to be 2 or 3 speakers, if not some conference, that will be of interest, and it's plenty to suit your appetite for that sort of thing. And the other way to look at it is sending our people out to the world. And one of the things the centers do well is to fund field research, archive visits, conference attendance, and that sort of thing for students. Now, as for what we specifically work on at the Strauss Center, we have one bucket of programs that I would describe as technology and security, law and policy all coming together. We have a flagship cybersecurity program that's deeply interdisciplinary in nature. The basic idea there is to make sure that the next generation of policy leaders in this area know some of the law, some of the technology. Next generation of technology leaders know some of the policy and the law, and so on around the horn. We have made great strides in that area. This is a great place to be to study the policy aspects and international relations aspects of cybersecurity. Incipient programs that are similar, we're working on building up a similar program in the biosecurity area, as well as space, satellites, and that sort of thing. Turning to regional studies and regional instability, we have programs relating to China, we have programs relating to Russia, programs relating more generally to political violence as it affects women, and a flagship program on Mexico and Latin America that's titled the Mexico Security Initiative, but it's much broader in practice than just security issues, and definitely includes a heavy focus on migration patterns, causes, consequences, and reactions there too. We have national security partnership programs, including with these fellows you'll be hearing about more in a moment. We do a lot of things together. In fact, I think it's best to view all of our operations as all of us rowing our oars in the same direction, trying to improve the opportunities for students here at LBJ. We also partner with other campus units like the law school pretty heavily. Lastly, I'll note we have a fellowship program, and when we come back, as I think we will in a later round of questions, talking about specific ways for students to get involved, I'll say something more about that. So thanks for listening to me talking about the Strauss Center.
All right, I'm Will Inboden. I'm the executive director of the Clements Center, where I hold the William Powers Chair, and I'm also a professor here at the LBJ School, and I've been here for 8 years. I came to join the faculty at LBJ after about 15 years of working in the national security and foreign policy realm. I did about 10 years in Washington working on the National Security Council staff, the State Department, and as a congressional staff member, then did a few years overseas and also in D.C. Running a foreign policy think tank. And one reason I came to LBJ is I felt like I'd accrued some interesting experiences in the policy realm, but really wanted to have a chance to pass those on to the next generation, to apply those in the classroom, to have my research be shaped by my policy background and also certainly my teaching as well. And often, I approach my classes thinking, what are things I wish I would have learned in grad school to prepare me to be a policymaker that I didn't, and how can I pass those on to our students now? The Clements Center works very closely hand in hand with the Strauss Center, as Bobby shared, and partnering on the intelligence projects, which you'll hear about in a minute from Steve. The mission of the Clements Center is twofold. It's applying the insights of history to current national security policy challenges, and then it's helping to teach and train the next generation of policymakers. And so on the research side, most of our research is focused on drawing on historical insights for the national and international security challenges facing our country and world today. And then on our teaching and professional development side, it's really how can we help prepare our students here at UT, our students especially here at LBJ, for meaningful and successful careers in policy, intelligence, and so forth. A few specific programs and opportunities for engagement I can mention in addition to everything that Bobby said. Is we sponsor a portfolio program in security studies. So this is for LBJ students who are already coming here for 2 years to do the MGPS degree. Can also get a certification on your diploma in security studies. And that's without having to pay any extra money or do anything extra. It's basically building on your existing work in a focused program of study. We provide generous support for internships the summer between your first and second year, so we can help you find an internship in the policy world, and then if it's an unpaid one, we provide support for that to enable students to do those internships, which can be so important for them getting a job once you graduate. We offer graduate research assistant positions to help with our research projects and our programming, and also provide some income to help defray your graduate school costs. Along with the Strauss Center and the ISP, we have sponsored a number of policy research projects at LBJ, the required year-long intensive group research project that most of our students do in their second years. So we've sponsored those on the role of intelligence oversight, and that was with our client was the Director of National Intelligence. Co-sponsored one on the role of intelligence and providing support to special operations forces with the National Security Council as the client. And then, of course, Bobby can share more about a really terrific one on Mexico security. And a number of our research projects we're doing for the intelligence community, the Department of Defense, we try to involve our students in those as much as we can. So it's a great experience to get, great line in your CV. And then finally, as Bobby mentioned, we are doing all we can to bring national and international leaders here to UT, here to LBJ, to give public talks and also to meet privately with our students. So just in the last couple of years, we've had multiple secretaries of defense, secretaries of state, CIA directors, current and former directors of national intelligence, multiple U.S. senators, current and former national security advisors. It's really been kind of the Hall of Fame of current and former national security leaders, all of whom we host here on campus. They give a really interesting public talk, and then they meet privately with our students for candid exchange of ideas, career advice, things like that. And so it's one of the most singular opportunities any graduate school in the country to be exposed to those people, and you don't need to be in Washington, D.C. to do that. And finally, I'm going to hand it over to Steve Slick, who will share about our collaborative work on intelligence and his own background there. But let me just tee it up. He's too modest to say this, so I will. UT and LBJ in particular have pretty much become arguably the premier program in the country for students interested in intelligence. Steve will share more on that, but we've got a great reputation with the intelligence community, and we're turning into a real valued partner with them, especially for students interested in careers there. So with that, we'll turn it over to Steve to share some more about those particular opportunities.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Will and Bobby and Kate. Thanks for the invitation. So very quickly about myself and how I got to Austin, Texas. I'm obviously the most junior, least experienced of the group here in front of you, but I was invited to come to Austin and join the faculty here at the LBJ School a little over 4 years ago, and it's been just a tremendous experience. So I have two functions. I'm a clinical professor, part of our clinical faculty here at the LBJ School, which in my view, is really quite strong and something that you'll want to look at as you approach policy schools, trying to figure out which place has the right mix of academic faculty and clinical faculty and practical and intellectual opportunities. So in any event, those are the circumstances that I was brought here down. But most specifically to lead something these fellows have referred to as the Intelligence Studies Project. So that's been around for about 4 or 5 years, and it's been my privilege to lead it since I arrived here in 2015. Before I came to Austin, I was an officer in CIA's clandestine service, the operational side of the agency, for a little more than 28 years. During that time, I had the opportunity to work and serve undercover overseas, involved in human operations and covert action activities. And I also had the privilege for 5 years to serve on the National Security Council staff, working on issues of intelligence policy and intelligence resources. And all that comes together in the courses we offer and the other activities we make available to students here. Now, Bobby sort of teed this up correctly. I think the marching orders we had for all of our centers, and particularly for the Intelligence Studies Project, were to be active in 3 areas. The first being academic offerings, offer you all as students who may be interested in national security careers, or at least interested in understanding how national security policy is made, a handful of courses that will help you understand how it actually functions in Washington, how these policies are developed and implemented, and to also address some of the current controversies that almost inevitably arise in intelligence policy. And as our staff has grown over the years, we've also been able to offer a wider variety of courses. And now most of our students here in the Global Policy Studies program or in the Public Affairs program who have an interest in intelligence will be able to take an overview course, survey course, understand the basics, some skills development courses on thinking, writing, and briefing for intelligence purposes, which get absolutely rave reviews, and also some more specialized courses. For example, I'll be offering in the spring a second running of a covert action and national security policy course. And my good friend and colleague Paul Pope, former distinguished CIA officer who's a fellow at our center, is going to be offering for the first time a counterterrorism policy course in the spring. So anyway, there's a variety, I'd say an expanding variety of courses that we're able to offer you all as graduate students, but also undergraduates. Secondly, in the research area, Professor Inboden mentioned some of the policy research projects, at least two of them, that the Intelligence Studies Project has sponsored. These are great opportunities for students to learn about something, to work together in a group, to deal with clients in Washington, D.C., like the National Security Council or the Office of Director of National Intelligence, and really a tremendously rewarding experience for us as professors and also for the students who participate. We also have a book project that we're working with Professor Bob Hutchings, former dean, recounting all of the reminiscences of former chairman of the National Intelligence Council. So this will be on the state of estimative intelligence. And we have another project that I'll mention just because it's so interesting to me and many of the students. We have a postdoctoral research fellow here, distinguished professor from the new university in Sofia, Bulgaria, Dr. Avramov Kirill. Kirill's actually teaching in the undergraduate Center for East European Studies, but he's also leading a research project into Russian disinformation, sort of indicators and warnings. And he has a handful of students, including some LBJers, working with him on gathering data of potential instances of Russian disinformation, electoral interference in Europe and here in the United States, coding that, and then the students will be involved in some of the analysis that goes into that as well. And then finally, as Will and Bobby mentioned, we make a concerted effort to stay in close contact with the people in Washington who are actually leading these agencies, these organizations in the intelligence community and elsewhere. So we've had D&I Coates, we've had Director of CIA Pompeo, we'll be hosting the chairman and vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence in a week and a half to discuss with them their Russian election interference investigation, which is just incredibly important for the country. And this will be one of the few opportunities where they speak publicly about it. So over the course of a year or two here, you can encounter virtually all the leaders of the major intelligence agencies and as Will said, a handful of national security figures that are just otherwise inaccessible. So it's an exciting place to be interested in intelligence. This is a competitive field to find work in, but we're having some success as well with our students landing really challenging jobs in Washington, including with some of the so-called three-letter agencies that we try to track. Anyway, look forward to your questions, conversation.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. You can open up the chat box and type in your questions there, or if you choose to share your screen, make sure you turn on your audio so we can hear your questions. So we first have a question from Tanner. Hi, Tanner. He says, I've already submitted my application to the PhD program and would love to know if at all the centers work with the school to study and inform others about climate change through the lenses of intelligence and national security.
I think that comes to the Strauss Center. We've had some programs in this area that are quite interesting. You know, our programs being interdisciplinary sometimes take on more of the lens of certain disciplines than others. In this space, we've done a lot of what I would describe as political science informed coding of data and then representation of that data with really cool user-friendly tools for geomapping to capture impacts between climate change or connections between climate change and conflict events of various kinds. And so if you're obviously at your computer, if you'll dig up the Strauss Center's webpage, do a search, find the Strauss Center. If you look at our list of programs, you eventually can find your way to the Climate Change in African Political Stability, or CCAPS program, or maybe you'll find the Complex Emergencies and Political Stability in Asia program. We have several of these major Defense Department funded multi-year, multi-million-dollar efforts to capture really reliably coded, hand-coded, not computer-coded, hand-coded data, which a lot of LBJ students spend a lot of hours working on, and we hired LBJ students to do this. And then these really neat tools you can play with to slice the data in various ways. So explore around the site. And then on that same theme, I'll just note one of our many partner relationships where sometimes our own students will get involved is a partnership with a site that I co-founded that you may know of called Lawfare, LAWFARE. Lawfare is sort of originally a law and national security site, but now it's more broad than that. And you'll find a post there this morning by one of my colleagues that is exactly about this topic, climate change and national security. And so if that's an interest of yours, I strongly recommend going and finding that piece.
If I could just add a few words, because I was on the CCAPS and SEPTA projects that were sponsored through the Strauss Center. That was about $10 million of grant funding from the U.S. Department of Defense, the NERVA initiative. And I think over the course of about 8 years, we had over 150 LBJ students involved in those projects, either as graduate research assistants, student coders and data technicians, or participants in policy research projects. And many of them now work in the climate change and security field.
Well, let me actually jump back in to point out there's another institution we have not mentioned here, but since Kate, you were here, we should talk about Innovations for Peace and Development, IPD, which absolutely is a cognate or related enterprise where you're hiring lots of students to do a lot of work, including work I think that touches on this area. So that deserves mention as well.
Well, thanks, but I think I already did that in a prior webinar. So
Watch them all.
Okay.
Gwen put up the address for IPD, but really in practice, these three centers work very, very closely together. And I think overall, and if you're studying global policy in almost any aspect, you're going to have a chance to get involved with applied research.
Can I mention something else too, especially since Lawfare came up, and I should have mentioned this earlier. We have also just in the last year launched a new journal, the Texas National Security Review, and we've done it in partnership with an online journal. I hope most of you are familiar with War on the Rocks, and if you go to War on the Rocks, you can see they're sponsored by the Texas National Security Network, the University of Texas. That's something we've all put together. But I mention this because this is also becoming an opportunity, as with Lawfare, for our students here to do some publications and get some editing experience too. So we're certainly starting to get more and more students involved in helping edit some of the submissions for the Texas National Security Review, which has an online and a print edition. You'll see we've already had some leading policymakers and scholars publishing there. But again, another way for students to get involved. And I also, Steve, I'm going to steal a little bit of ISP thunder here. I should have mentioned that UT, LBJ in particular, we're the only research university and policy school in the country where CIA has given us a visiting officer. And so we've got a guy here named Alan Kessler who is here for 2 years, detailed from CIA. He's teaching classes, he's doing research, he's mentoring students who are interested in careers in intelligence. And like I said, we're the only school in the country that has this partnership with CIA. And CIA picked us for that because they think that LBJ and UT are doing such good work already in intelligence, and we're one of their priority universities.
Yeah, I would also add that we have a U.S. Diplomat in Residence program. Mm-hmm. So we have a former ambassador who sits here in the LBJ School. She's a liaison to the entire state of Texas, but because she's housed here, she's a constant resource for our students who are interested in going to the State Department or foreign service. Mm-hmm. And that's an extra leg up on internships, fellowships, and so forth. Any more questions from the peanut gallery? I have a quick question for you all. Do you have specific examples of alumni from the LBJ School who have been able to use their connections to the Strauss and Clements Centers to really move into great careers in DC and beyond?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about some of them?
I'll just mention a few. Rachel Hoff, working for the Senate Armed Services Committee under the then chairmanship of the late John McCain, great LBJ alum who was involved with our center. Anna Waterfield with the House Armed Services Committee, also LBJ alum who was very involved with our center. Quite a few students who we can't name who are currently with CIA, NSA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and so forth. Matt Guevara, who's working in the Office of the Secretary of Defense for policy, particularly on Russia. Russia right now is another recent alum who got a great job there. So.
I'll just, thinking about the connection with the law that I didn't really highlight as much. We do have a lot of law students and LBJ students taking law classes. Some of those folks are now ending up at the NSA General Counsel's office. One of our most involved students is no doubt heading that direction, currently enjoying some really fabulous clerkships with some federal judges. Think about Eric. And then I think about Ellen Scholl, who's been writing for Lawfare. She came out of LBJ and almost instantly had her own column where she curates one of the more important feeds we've got.
And Ellen also ran the energy program at the Atlantic Council for the last couple of years and has just joined the State Department as a Foreign Service Officer. Jessica Carrillo, Foreign Service Officer, also product of our programs. A couple of other students who can't be named who are joining the National Counterterrorism Center as their clearances come through. So
it's been a nice track record of success.
In the interest of discretion and the career prospects for some of these individuals, it's suffice to say that here at the University of Texas, because of the nature of the university itself and because of our programs, I think most of the significant agencies that are doing national security work, that are hiring young professionals, are coming here to campus oftentimes more than once a year. We maintain very close relationships with those folks. We try to stay informed on what it is that they're looking for in terms of academic specialties and current hiring. And that also leads into the amount of mentoring and counseling that we do. Will mentioned the fact that Alan Kessler, the CIA resident officer, is here for 2 years. Permanent change of station assignment. Paul Pope and I are here, Kirill Avramov. And so we spend a good bit of time, and we enjoy it, talking to students who might be exploring career options, particularly those folks that think they want to work in intelligence, which is a little bit arcane and not a field that's particularly well understood. But we do our best to be available and spend as much time as you want to thinking about careers, thinking about your own skills, and trying to find the right fit for you when you leave here.
Right. And in answer to Tanner's question about cooperation between the centers and the Latin American Studies program, yes, there's lots of cooperation between the research centers, the LBJ School, and all the area studies centers on campus. One of the things that I think make us the best program to study security and intelligence is the fact that you can do a dual degree at the LBJ School with law, business, and area studies centers and so forth. So if you want to focus in on Middle Eastern studies, for example, we've got a flagship Arabic program, and you can do a dual degree, Master's in Middle Eastern Studies and Master's in Global Policy Studies. Likewise, a dual degree, get your law school degree and your Master's in Global Policy in 4 years. Yeah. And so that's a really great place to come and get all those skills that I know are very, very marketable in intelligence and security.
And so to Tanner's question about the LILAS in particular, or the Lozano Long Institute for Latin American Studies, which is one of the country's, if not the premier institution for Latin American studies, certainly in the top tier. We're neighbors on this side of the campus. They're located, the Benson American History collections between us, but they're right there. Straus has a Mexico security initiative, as I mentioned earlier. We do a lot of our speakers and events in partnership with the Mexico program run by Rico Ainsley at LILAS. We consider them close partners. We actually were just this weekend emailing back and forth about who we want to invite in for a spring security-focused Latin American speaker. We kind of view that as a strength meeting with strength type of activity. Now, the next question brings up Army Futures Command, which is a neat recent development for the city of Austin. For those who have not followed this, Army's created a command that is based here in downtown Austin, and it's actually in the University of Texas system building. Like, we've leased them, or I think maybe even given them space for a number of years. And so the question is, how does Army Futures Command intersect with the policy programs in the centers that we operate? Now, if you know about Army Futures Command, it's a weapons and platforms leap forward oriented program where the engineering program and the natural sciences programs at UT are very heavily involved, deeply interconnected. Futures Command itself doesn't have a policy focused mission, but it's nonetheless part of the community. They've been reaching out to us. We've been reaching out to them to find ways, at a minimum, create opportunities that we hope could turn into placements, internships, externships, that sort of thing. We'll see what comes of that. But the entity that's similar to that, that's most relevant, I would say, is the Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, more recently known as DIU-X. You may have heard of it. This is the Pentagon-wide enterprise trying to leap forward technologically. Mike Brown, who leads it, was just here last week. He's coming back, and he and I are going to do a panel at South by Southwest. Every March, there's a huge ideas festival component to South by Southwest. And that's an area where they have an express mission of beginning to build into the policy space and to partner with the university in ways beyond the technical and engineering. And LBJ is going to be central to that partnership. And they're only in a few places in the country: Austin, Boston, and of course Silicon Valley. So that's really a key partnership that's going to grow for the LBJ School.
We also have a question here from Jasmine. She's applying to the GPS program, and she wants to find out how she can apply or get involved with the various centers.
So, Yasmin, thank you very much for that. I would say don't sweat it right now, because I know you're just in application season. But in the spring, hopefully, once you've heard good news on acceptance, feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact info is on the school's website. Just flag for us that you'd potentially be interested in a position at the Clements Center. We usually make the hiring decisions for our GRA positions in August, September, kind of at the beginning of the academic year. So no hurries or worry about that until then.
Yeah, so the Strauss Center, I usually answer the question of involvement at noting the following things. At a bare minimum, we want you to come to all the events, and part of that is making sure that you know about the ones that are specific to the programs we have that might be of special interest. So say you're a cybersecurity focused person, you want to be on the list for that. We have an overall list, we have a curated list. We like to figure out who the students are who are especially interested in those program areas, so that, as often happens, as Steve described and Will described, we have these speakers come in. We create opportunities for students to have one-on-one, not necessarily one-on-one, but small group sessions, sometimes one-on-one sessions, to interact directly with these national and global figures. And so if we know that you are part of the cohort that's interested in that, we can begin to build you into those. We do some hiring. It depends on what the programs are at that given time. So so political violence against women, we recently hired a whole slew of LBJ students to do coding work for that program. At different times, we have different needs. We also have student workers. And then most notably, as I mentioned earlier, we have a kind of a premier fellowship program. And every spring, so spring of your first year, if you've decided at that point the Strauss Center has, say, space policy, space and satellite stuff that's of interest to you, you can apply for one of our Brumley fellowships. It's a campus-wide competition among grad students. We pick one person for each of our different program areas, and the winner who gets that fellowship, in addition to getting a nice little stipend and travel budget for research, we match you with a mentor who's relevant for your area, who ideally is not from, if you're an LBJ student, not an LBJ faculty member, but somebody else from around campus, to build a different disciplinary exposure for you. And that person supervises you in some research. And you also get to pick the person in the world you're most interested in meeting to come here as a speaker, and then you act as the co-host to actually shepherd that person around campus, go to a meal with that person, and if you take advantage of it the right way, it's a tremendous personal network building exercise.
Another, by the way, while we're kind of singing the extolling the virtues of coming to LBJ, another one we should have mentioned earlier is starting in the spring. Admiral Bill McRaven is going to be teaching a course here on national security leadership. Hopefully, all of you know who he is. A great American, the Navy SEAL and former Special Operations Commander who led the operation that killed Osama bin Laden. Most recently was the UT Chancellor, but now that he has stepped down as being Chancellor, he's able to teach here at LBJ, mentor students, be very involved with our centers and our programs, and again, another tremendous resource. And we can't say names now, but we're in the process of hiring a couple of other senior former national security professionals who will also be assisting him with teaching that class and available as resources to our students. And so it's really a wonderful abundance of riches here.
Hey, we have a question. Unlike other programs I've looked at the LBJ School, seems to have a fairly diverse security-oriented opportunities. How would a student go about deciding which programs to apply for or pursue? Does LBJ offer pre-application advising that helps to provide more information that's available online? Can we go ahead and
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's yours. Yeah.
Dr.
So
Weaver.
sort of kind of omissions, I would say absolutely. When you apply either to the GPS or the MPath program for the master's degree, or of course the PhD program. We will, as you fill out the information form on the application website, we will match you then with faculty members and with students who work in your areas of interest and follow up directly. You're also more than welcome to contact me directly, and I will connect you by email or by phone with one of our distinguished faculty members working on security. So we do have many opportunities, but I would say that one of the nice things about the LBJ School is that the PhD program is so small that master's students get all the attention. And that means the opportunities to engage in research and one-on-one collaboration with professors themselves. So if you go ahead and email me, and I'll be happy to play matchmaker. Do we have any other questions? Thanks, Tanner. If anyone's online, we have a webinar coming up next week that is geared towards veterans and from the military as well as active duty military officers. We're going to talk a lot about how to use Hazelwood benefits and other GI benefits, as well as the special programs and services we provide to our men and women in uniform. So we really hope that you can join us then. If you have any questions in the meantime for any of us, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is up there, and I can connect you to Will, Bobby, or Steve.
That's right,
Okay.
and we are glad so many of you will be applying. We hope we get a chance to work with you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Well,
Good
we'll
luck,
leave it
y'all.
there. Thanks so much. Hope to hear from you. Bye.
All right.